The Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
This week, a new film called The King's Daughter is hitting theaters. After The King's Man, it seems like the King's Speech franchise has really hit its stride.
Also, Redeeming Love. Surprisingly, not a biopic about Darlene, Courtney, or Buddy. Missed opportunity. I mean, what are these movies?
Yeah, clearly it's January. It's also Monday Movie Nonsense. The hell is that? What was that one?
That was Double Dragon.
It's
okay. Probably going to come up again today.
I hope it does, and I love the stories about it, but listen, I'm not going to see it. All right, welcome to Movie Nonsense, everybody. Happening every Monday at 6 Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Adam, Whit, and Paul Preston here, and we're basically doing whatever the hell we feel like doing. That's kind of what the show is.
Pretty much.
And it's once a week. So come on back, because you never know. I mean, if you've seen the show before, we're just doing whatever the hell we want to do. But we do want more eyeballs on this nonsense. So if you like what you see, help us out. Spread the word. Share and like posts. The Movie Guys, everywhere there is social media. That's at The Movie Guys on Twitter, at The Movie Guys on Facebook, at The Movie Guys on Instagram. Spread the word, and we appreciate it. And, of course, if you want to find us, you can tell your friends. Look us up wherever there are podcasts, and you can go to themovieguys.net if you want. Basically, search the internet. Search us on Yahoo or Google or... Yahoo! That is Yahoo. Yes.
That is Yahoo.
What the fuck is the internet?
That's a better response. So tell your friends, like and subscribe and all that crap. So, Adam.
Yes.
Before we get into anything, Monday night's a big night, not just for football, but the Bengals have already won.
The Bengals have already won.
There's no need for you to watch football unless... Count us down.
There's something special. We are a mere 2 hours, I believe, away from the premiere of...
This Monday, don't miss the world trailer premiere.
There's chaos in you.
Of Marvel Studios' Moon Knight this Monday during the NFL Super Wildcard Game.
Now that is a preview for a preview of a movie. Now, and I got hyped when they did a preview for the preview of this movie, which looked like this.
This Monday, don't miss of Marvel Studios' Moon the NFL Super Wildcard.
But really, it really takes something out of it, though, I think.
Yeah. I was going to say, one of these days we're going to spoof that, and lo and behold, you've done it. And we don't talk about TV much here on the Movie Guys. We're movie guys. But listen, Star Wars and Marvel especially, Marvel especially, also Star Wars, have blended the two mediums in storytelling so well that, I'm excited for everything they're going to bring us this year. And I think Moon Knight's March. So, Adam, you don't have to wait much longer, a month and a half.
This is my very favorite superhero. So I'm just, I could not be more excited. But, hey, that's it. I just want to set the tone at the top. There is a general countdown here. We are counting down the moments. But there's a moment we don't have to wait any more time for, and that is for our first guest, Paul. We're going to come straight out of the gate here. Today we go legit. We have the star of Nightmare Alley. Bradley who? No, we have the star of the movie here today. Every week on Movie Nonsense, we try and bring exclusive news, inside looks on current films, and we fail. But not today, because today we have the star of a movie currently in theaters. And on top of that, he has personally worked behind the scenes with the true auteur. You know him from such movies as Water for Elephants and My Dinner with Hervé, and don't know him from Double Dragon and Rinse Cycle. He is currently starring in a legitimate masterpiece, Guillermo Del Toro's Nightmare Alley. Please welcome the pride and joy of Miami University, Mark Povinelli.
It's Mark Povinelli.
It's Mark Povinelli. I say it and boom, there he is.
You need to qualify that. That's Miami University of Ohio.
Of Ohio, right? Exactly.
We always need to add that caveat, right?
Yeah. Now, who demands that be added? Miami of Ohio or Miami University? Say, just be sure to separate us from the Ohio.
I think we were there first. Miami University of Ohio was there first. The city and the university down south. That's a bad sequel. You know, you're going to see that on Monday Night Football.
That's the CSI Miami of towns and universities.
Exactly. Right.
As they're fond of saying at Miami of Ohio, Miami was a university before Florida was a state, which is actually true. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the comeback right there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Take that. Top that.
Top that.
Oh, Teen Witch. Have you seen Teen Witch, Mark?
I have it queued up right now. I'm watching it as we speak.
Good.
That's probably best.
As one does. We gave you a prep sheet. We probably should have put that one lower on it. You don't need to watch that to keep up with the show, but that's fine.
So, listen, Guillermo Del Toro has made this movie that I saw in color, and now it should be pointed out, Nightmare Alley, Vision in Darkness and Light is the new black and white version of the film, which is based on an old black and white movie, so it just lends itself to this dark noir tone that Guillermo del Toro has decided to put out in two different versions. And basically, the films are the same, just the look is different in the black and white version. And you can catch it through the 20th here in LA at the AMC at the Grove and at the Landmark Theater as well. And it opens on the 21st for a 3-day engagement at the Los Feliz Theater and the American Cinematheque. So be sure to go and check that out. And this is not the black and white version, but there's the film. Nightmare Alley. A cavalcade of big-time actors.
Quick clip here as well, if anybody wants to get in the tone of this thing.
Are you in contact with the Beyond?
Well, we've had our share of snake charmers in the past. We deal with them.
You don't fool people, Stan. They fool themselves.
I've given you a fortune. It's time that you delivered.
When does it end? I want to know.
If you displease the right people, the world closes in on you very, very fast.
Good stuff.
Looks like Teen Witch.
So let's talk about some of these cast members. Because first of all, you play a part in this carnival sequence of the movie that eventually translates to a bigger city where Bradley Cooper's character leaves to go to. You intertwine into that again later, but in the city, he meets Cate Blanchett. So did you even see Cate Blanchett at all on set, or did you do one of those things I hear about now, especially during COVID, where it's like, we met at the premiere?
Right, and she actually didn't even get to go to the premiere because there was some kind of COVID quarantine rules about either leaving, I think she was in London or coming into the States. So she was on this huge screen behind us when they did the premiere in New York. When they did the talkback. But I did get to meet Cate. This was just pre-COVID. The crazy thing is this film ended up taking about 1.5 years to make because of an interruption halfway through filming that was COVID. And we shut down for 6 months. But back in December of 2019, I was out in Toronto for a costume fitting and a screen test and that sort of thing. And Jay Milesdale, the producer, and Guillermo took a handful of us out to dinner, and sitting one person down from me was the effervescent Cate Blanchett. So I had dinner with Cate, and then I never saw her again. Then we never saw anything, and COVID happened, and she shot her stuff. They shot the second half of the film first. So that all got shot, like January, February, and March of 2020. And then we shot all of our first half of the movie in September, October, November, December of 2020. Sorry. Gosh, they all slip away, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the New Beverly, and again, one of the great things is not only can you see it in black and white on 35 millimeter, but then sometimes randomly people show up after the show to talk about the movie, like Guillermo Del Toro and Kim Morgan, and he said that they before all the nationwide things started shutting down, they were already getting warnings of like, maybe we don't know if we should. And he said, basically, they said, everybody drop everything, walk out the door. And that's the way the set sat for 6 months. He said, like the Andrea Doria, this was the reference he made. It just sat there abandoned. So well, yeah, you were involved.
That was actually like, I arrived, Ron Perlman, myself, Rooney, Mara, and Bradley had the first day of shooting, and in January, and we shot a little bit, shot that day in a diner, and ended up being used in the film. But we shot that, went away for about a month and a half, and then came back on like March 9th or something to Toronto, presumably to be there for 2 months to film the rest of the movie. And I got there, I got one costume fitting in, dropped off my bags of clothes at the hotel, and 36 hours later was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning with, you have a flight at 7 a.m. this morning, and you're leaving and you're getting the hell out of town because we've shut everything down. So I flew out to get a costume fitting and flew back 2 days later, and then sat around for 6 months and never actually shot anything.
I didn't, and it's not like you're even going to go shoot anything else. There's just total lockdown, right? Just home with the fam?
Just home, waiting to see when and if we'd ever, it's a bit disconcerting because these kind of things, it's not every day that Guillermo Del Toro asks you to be in a movie.
Right.
And you get that close, you're on the precipice, you're right there, you've got all your bags for 2 or 3 months to shoot, and they send you back home, and 6 months later, you still don't know if you're going to shoot it. And it was, luckily he was determined to make it, and they had already had enough in the can that there was no turning back, but it was dicey there for a while. Wondered if we'd ever make it.
Because the studios are going to be tightening their belts at that point. They're like, nobody's going to movies. Like, this of all movies is not, although I guess it helps that he's had a best picture, that they go, well, maybe we could get this out for the prestige season, and this will be something we can pump up for awards consideration. But are you a generally positive or negative person? Because you could go, oh my God, I'm in a Guillermo Del Toro movie, here's the cast, and then the pandemic comes, and I can see you going one of two ways. It's like, well, of course, this great thing happened. Or did you go, look, I've got something to look forward to now, sitting around during the pandemic, that I know when this is over, I get to be in this huge movie, the biggest of your career, I would think,
Well, I mean, I sort of looked at it that way. That, I mean, what are the other thing actors hate to do is have somebody ask them, well, what are you working on? Because chances are you're not. And I got to milk this movie for like a year and a half of saying, well, I'm working on this Guillermo Del Toro film when we start shooting it. So I had like 6 extra months of being able to, name drop this film that ordinarily I wouldn't. So I took it as a positive.
Yeah.
They could also turn that around on you, though. It's like, hey, where are you working on? Nightmare Alley? You told me that a year ago. What are you working on now?
Working on Nightmare Alley.
Really working hard. A lot of stuff on Nightmare Alley. Yeah.
So is this the biggest production you've ever worked on? I know Mirror Mirror would probably be the other big Hollywood budget-wise movie. And would this be the biggest? And if so, what do you see in the machinations of a big production like that when it's fully functioning? Obviously, the disruptions are one thing, but when you see it happening with big stars and no doubt a full crew and the Oscar winner at the helm, it's the biggest thing you've been in?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that throw in Water for Elephants too, that those are like the ones that I stuck around, for a long time on. This one I was there for 10 weeks, I believe, on set, and similar to with Mirror Mirror and Water for Elephants, and they're just so very different. And the beauty about this one, there were so many. This one was unrivaled in its prestige, with its cachet of artistry, and that was so abundantly clear, coming from theater, working, growing up, kind of working with people who cared about the craft. I mean, this all sounds cliched, but you arrive there and you know, you saw that list. There's 9 people on there that have Academy nominations or awards, not including, but you know, Guillermo and Dan Lawson and Miles and all the other people behind the camera. And those actors, they had just no ego. You know, they were there to create a piece of art and to service their moment in that story, and nothing more, nothing less. And it was a really just such a gratifying experience to work with people that immediately treated you as that none of that BS was there. It was just a quality of a team working together to make the best piece of film that we could.
And looking at the set, the set that you got to be a part of, I mean, obviously there's lots of great lush sets. You know, it turns into a whole different movie when Cate Blanchett comes in with that production design. But the production design that you were a part of, did they build out that whole carnival, all the clapboards that people walked along? Like, that was a full contiguous set that you would just walk around and I mean, you were so immersed in that was all real, right?
It was completely real. I built it on fairgrounds outside of Toronto, about 40 miles outside of Toronto. And it was essentially, we could have, if we needed money during COVID, we could have opened that up and worked it as a real carnival. Like, it was a functioning, working set that you could have actually, the Ferris wheel worked and the carousel worked, and
wow.
the you know, the games worked if you wanted to dare knock down the pinballs and have someone yell at you about how you just knocked those down. They all worked, and they were there, and they were real, and the dirt was extremely real, and the mud and the rain and
it's never not raining, by the way, in those scenes.
Not a Guillermo Del Toro film. It's just raining. And the later at night you can get it to rain, the better, apparently, because it always seemed like it was 2:00 in the morning when it started, when he brought the rain down on us. But yeah, it was completely a real, functioning, beautiful, gorgeous set out in the countrysides of Canada, and it was magical. You just wow. There was no green screen. There was no, the believability was worked into the fabric of every shot and scene, because you were actually in. It was so tactile. It made it quite easy, to be honest.
And I love all these posters too, that, all these long shots and stuff as they go through the thing, are all these posters, the Electra Woman and all these things. I mean, Del Toro must have been in heaven, because you could just tell he just adores the sideshow atmosphere. Was he like a kid in a candy shop shooting this thing so happy?
Well, the great thing for me was I got to work. All of my stuff basically was with Ron Perlman.
Yeah,
who I've always been a huge fan of.
Right,
and
he's the best.
We spent 3 months driving back and forth from downtown Toronto to a 40-minute drive back and forth to the fairgrounds, and just hung out together all the time. Our trailers were next to each other, and he is best friends with Guillermo. I mean, they are, artistic muses for each other, if you will. And so Ron had told me, he would tell me stories and stories about Guillermo, but he said that he's never seen Guillermo happier on a film. And wow. Sure, there were days where Guillermo got frustrated or was, wanted very serious. It wasn't like it was a amusement park ride, but he did have a joy. He did have a childlike joy, just about the storytelling more than anything. It wasn't all about the artistry. It was about the storytelling. Right. What's so amazing about him is that he has this artistic sense of filling the world with these themes and these shots and again, the production value, but he'll throw all of that away to listen to the actors and take in their input and build stories around what these actors are bringing. It did not feel, autocratic in any way. It was really to have that confidence in what you're doing, that you can give so much of it up, is what makes him a master.
I'm going to say something controversial. This movie's better than The Shape of Water, if you ask me. Well, because I think Guillermo has this fantastical way of making movies that sometimes gets a little over the top for me. Obviously, that wins in a lot of situations, but kind of just pulling back to just real ugly noir in Nightmare Alley, man, that was like for me, that felt like bread and butter for him. That was like in the wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
He mastered that, and I kind of liked that. I mean, was there a direction on the set to like make sure this was all played super real? Because the realism in the carnival sequences was, like, I thought, really well played.
Yeah, I mean, I think source material is part of that. The book,
did you read that book?
Yeah, and the book and the Tyrone Powers film are both, they're both unapologetically dark. I mean, I know that the film, the original film has a different ending, and that's somewhat, people have their opinions on that. But there is, Water for Elephants was also a circus themed film, and that had just such a different feel. I felt like when I was in Nightmare Alley, I was in the, like, if Water for Elephants was playing in Dubuque, we were playing in the town 3 towns south of Dubuque, even crappier, like middle of Nebraska. There was just no, there was no glory. It was just, again, the feeling he sets up. There was no way you could play it other than just grinding it out, sort of sensibility about these people, very real. You got a real sense that these people were just hanging on, and it was only because of each other and the family that they created, which is what is so compelling about Bradley's character coming into this. Is he basically just, it just tears through this family dynamic that is so woven tightly because out of necessity, about all these disparate people and people barely hanging on. They hang on to each other and survive, and he comes in and just plows through them all, laying destruction in its path, and then walks out the other side, pulling Rooney Mara, pulling the beautiful dame along with him, for his own benefit. So a lot of that was the actors themselves just having such a good grasp. Bradley's set the tone, and he's just phenomenal, and his dedication and his joy for the work is it's pretty unmatched from what I've been around.
Didn't he have like 3 Oscar nominations in a row? Like Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, and American Sniper. Maybe even 4. Like, that guy's due. He's overdue. He's so good.
Yeah, and he's deceptively good because he's just so.
Good way to put it.
He understands. He understands the entire scope of the film, not just his part, and he understands his part within the film. And granted, this one he's in every shot basically, but you just get the sense that even that's why he's getting acknowledgement for Licorice Pizza too. Is that even when he's got 5 or 10 minutes, he knows really well the scope of the film and where he fits into it, and then fills that void as much as he can.
Have you seen that yet, Adam?
I have not.
If you need to be teased anymore, that just it's a new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. He plays John Peters.
John Peters.
Yes,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and sure enough, he got a SAG nomination. We'll see what happens with the Oscars.
John Peters, who produced the original, what's the Music Man or whatever it's called, not the Music Man, the
Wiz. What are you going for?
No, the musical one with the he just did in
Grease.
No, not Grease.
Oklahoma. What are you?
No, I can't think of the name of it. The song remains the same. The singer, the woman that sings.
Xanadu.
Never mind. We'll play this game later.
The nonsense part of the show. Mark.
Yeah.
So something you were saying. Oh, so you're talking about the family that lives at the carnival, works together at the carnival. So that brings here's a challenging question. What do you make of the Major? Like, he's a good guy because he and Bruno seem to have Molly's back for, as she gets embroiled in.
Yeah, they're very protective.
Bradley Cooper's character, they're very protective. But everybody is kind of okay that there's a geek, like, at all, at the carnival. No one kind of says, maybe we shouldn't do that. If you don't know, the geek is basically a half man, half human, but it's due to a person being ridiculously abused.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that question, huh?
Hey, ouch, man. You know, the last time I watched Teen Witch, I thought of this same sort of no.
Right?
You know,
Teen Witch is the gift that keeps on giving. Go ahead, Mark.
I like that she had to announce that she likes boys. Like, all
To
right.
the other girls. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, the major, what I really liked about, well, one of the things I liked is, and this is big credit to Guillermo and Kim, is that the major in the book is nothing more than a drunken caricature. He's a little person who is in this carnival, clearly being denigrated, and has just drunk himself silly, and he's a joke. He's like he never offers anything other than being basic drunken idiocy, and very little value. And what Guillermo and Kim did is they took the major and gave him some agency in this world, and that's what I found so interesting, is that all these carnivals, they had little people in them. They had sideshow characters in them. They had people with disabilities and people who look different. And unlike The Greatest Showman, where it looks like all these people just couldn't be happier than being exploited, and they just want to sing about how cool it is that P.T. Barnum saved them and and gave them a valuable life. The reality was, it's a pretty complicated thing. I mean, you've got these people back in this era who had basically been shut off from society, had very few options for living a full life, a successful life. Their families oftentimes would even sell them to the carnivals, thinking that to give them a better life, to give them something, or that they couldn't handle it. But what would happen is, once they get there, then think about it. You're like living with a group of people who all have other levels of ostracization and marginalization, and they bond and they form a family dynamic, and that becomes like a very fulfilling family. And so the major did have authority and power and agency in this world, where he worked his ass off and he worked his way up, and he had a skill, and he had a sense of self, and ended up getting in a position despite what society would have expected of him. Granted, it was all done in the realm of a carnival, but he had this level of authority. So to then want to sacrifice all that to save the geek would be a very difficult and bigger leap. And so, there's still that sense of, I've gotten to this level, and I'm going to look out for myself, and I'm going to look out for the people that are protecting me, and I'm going to protect them. And this half man drunk guy in a cage isn't going to do me a lot of good. So I'm just not going to deal with that. And I think that's how I rationalized. He ultimately still needed to watch his back and look out for himself, and look out for the charlatans and the people that were there to take him down, which that's why he's got such a leery view of Stan, because he doesn't trust him.
What an amazing assortment of characters too, that are like, for example, when we're talking about the geek right now, there's a whole monologue that Willem Dafoe has about how you create a geek and what you do to get them addicted, and that they'll do anything. It's just, it's the darkest place I think the whole movie goes. And the rest of it feels very much like family. Certainly with the major and the strong man and Elektra, who definitely form their own little family unit that you can feel when she's ripped away from. Is you don't think of the same way as you do about the geek. The geek is like, but it's this very cautionary tale. That's a really incredibly dark place. And David Strathairn also, his relationship to he does the psychic thing that Bradley Cooper takes over, this sort of seer thing, and that was David Strathairn's thing until he sort of supersedes it, and we won't say how, but that's just what an interesting, like, Guillermo is legitimately interested in the lives of all these people. He doesn't look down on anybody, any type of character in this movie. He loves them. And I'm sure you could feel that in the way that he gave direction, to any of you, right?
Right. I mean, it did feel like what he wanted to do is establish like these are the archetype characters that you would see in a carnival. Mm-hmm. And now let's tear down all those archetypes and build a real family. And I think that's what he did so well. He wasn't interested in propagating, Freaks-esque, like
right.
Here are the sideshow characters and here's what they might do. And it was purely about this family and the destructive nature of somebody coming in and, kind of working their way through them to manipulate them and take what they could stand and then abandon them.
And it's so interesting in how he directs that he naturally has this love of darker stuff and really, kind of extreme stuff, noir. But yet I wonder if he says to himself, or maybe you could divine this from how he directed things, that, if I make sure that all of these people are humanized, it's going to be more apparent that something's up with Bradley Cooper when he takes her out of the family. We definitely feel that, but I wonder which part goes forward in his thinking of that, and that it just works out that, the family thing has been broken up, or does he go, we need to humanize them for that reason? Seems like he's got his eyes on everything, and other things he puts his eyes on, and then that makes other things work out, so.
And I think, he always kept very at the forefront noir and
Right.
the idea that nothing ever works out in a noir. It's always tragic and everybody always ends up worse. And so that was true for just about really everybody in the film, is that, ultimately we all ended up in a worse place probably than when we began because of Bradley's or Stan's existence, except maybe, it remains to be seen about Stan himself. But so there was always a sense of foreboding, even about the characters in the carnival, that they would never be the same after he went through it, and those family dynamics wouldn't be the same. And that, and there was, I'm assuming as an audience member, even when Stan breaks out into the city, it doesn't feel like we're headed for a happy ending.
No. That's kind of the amazing trick of it, is as the movie gets brighter and the city comes into it, and you start seeing, you see in the trailer, anybody who hasn't seen it, these lush sets and everything that Cate Blanchett is on. The brighter that gets, the richer that gets, the darker the movie is actually getting, which is an amazing trick of it. The lightest it is at the sideshow. You do feel the family aspect. You're really enjoying that. And as they get into the city and as it actually technically gets brighter in terms of production design, it just starts getting darker and theme. You're like, there's no good ending to this.
Yeah. And there was a 3-hour, 19-minute version. I was told. I wasn't. I read that. He was talking about editing it down. He shot so much. Eventually, so he lops an hour out of that to get to what played in the theater. Just a little under an hour. So any of your scenes?
Of course. I mean, we all got brutalized in the process. When I went for my ADR, I was with him, and he told me, I think I was one of the first ADR sessions, and he said that his first cut was 3 hours and 55 minutes.
Wow.
So I'm sure that was an early cut, but we knew, and he told me, he's like, the major turns out okay. Pearl's on the other hand, meaning Perlman, he's not going to be very happy. I'm sure they worked it out.
Big monologue or something.
But yeah, I mean, there was it was there were a lot of iterations of the major. Even, I mean, there was one point that was what was kind of fascinating during this process, is that this wasn't totally locked in. We were always trying to discover these family dynamics, and for somewhere in the middle, I think we all had, were on COVID lockdown or something. It ended up that the major was in love with Molly, and you could see that there's this like forlorn, unrequited love thing, and that fell apart, which I think was right. I mean, I'm almost twice Rennie's age, probably. I'm not, but it didn't seem like that was going anywhere. But there was definitely there was definitely stuff, but I don't think any of it, the only thing that I think we all lament, and it was just about the moving that story along. And there's a scene in the, giving away a little bit, but scene in the city where some of the carnival group comes to visit Molly, Rooney's character. And in that, there's the set, we visit her hotel room. And in that, there's a scene being played out between Toni Collette and Bradley Cooper, but Rooney and I have this dance. And I learned how to tap dance during COVID break for this scene. And we shot this beautiful, Rooney was just lovely. And it really, like, the dance said so much about her character, and without, show it, not say it. And it was really beautiful. And we all were moved seriously by what she did in that scene and what that dance was. And ultimately it didn't serve the story that Guillermo ended up telling in a different way. But I think, like, we all just kind of wish that could have been taken out and put in maybe that'll be in the DVD or something, because it was a really beautiful moment on set, and they don't always translate into the film. And the song was All of Me, which is a beautiful, beautiful song, and really, like, heart wrenching. And this one, you had to put like this jazzy, upbeat nightclub music for pacing. But that's the only thing that I'm sort of like, I know that you all don't want to sit around and watch 2 minutes of me and Rooney Mara dancing, but I do. Yeah.
Well, he said in this same interview that they're deleted for a reason. So they were like, we're going to see this in the bonus. He's like, no, probably not. I got it down to what I want, and that's the movie, and there it is. Which is, like, impressive in a way today, considering everyone wants to go back. I mean, how many Blade Runners and Apocalypse Nows have we had? And he's just like, it's good. And you think about it, have there been director's cuts of any of his stuff? I think they all just... Adam, was there a director's cut of Blade 2? You tell me.
I feel like there was, but I don't have it, so I therefore can't corroborate that, because I would probably have it if that were the case. I do really love that you came back, because, after they left the sideshow, I was like, oh man, that's the end of seeing Povinelli show up in this. And then they show up later, and of course, selfishly, I'm like, all right, good. That's, I wanted to see you in the movie more, but boy, does that scene do a number for reminding you of, cause she has now gone further down his road of this. Now he's doing these grand shows and these huge numbers and stuff, and she's getting sadder and sadder. It's doing less and less for her. And when you guys come back, it really reminds you of what she misses, that she's not into this. She misses her family and everything. So not only was it cool seeing you come back, but also just like, for her journey, that's really important. Having you guys together in that scene. That was really cool.
And it speaks to, what you were saying, Paul, that Guillermo, I mean, that's exactly what the point of that was. So he put in enough of that dance and enough of us for it to convey it to you. And that's snip, snip, everything else. Everything else is just window dressing. And for somebody that imagines every corner, and I'm not even kidding, every corner of that set was full. And for him to be able to cut out all of the excess fat of that is quite impressive too, because you could easily fall in love with the visuals that he creates, and he avoids that.
Yeah, somehow he doesn't linger on every inch of these sets he creates. He actually just tells the story, and then you're just sitting there going, oh my God, look at all that, look at all that. Yeah. But I would think any other filmmaker would be like, why don't we start with a 20-minute tracking shot of exactly how awesome this set is. But
yeah, I mean, he said in this that same interview I read that I guess he got the job to make this film, and he was like immediately going to Goodwill or something like that, like looking for costumes, like that's, you want that from your director. I mean, I always say this on the show a million times, I'll take a director driven movie over anything. And so give me a guy who's passionate, even if it doesn't work in some movies. I can see, I don't love Ari Aster. There's another controversial take, the guy who made Midsummer and Hereditary.
Yeah,
but I see the skill there, man. And one day when what I like aligns with what he made, it's gonna pop like crazy. But so far, but I can see super skilled, and please keep going, man, because anytime the director's in charge, I'm a fan.
So you've watched a lot of directors direct at this point. What would you say, compare and contrast with other directors and Guillermo? Because it's just, even the casual fan can see something different is happening when Guillermo makes a movie. It's just so crafted. Was this a completely different experience? Because I know, you were from the mass communications program at Miami University, so I know of Ohio, along with myself, and that was a time where we had no sooner gotten to college than El Mariachi, Clerks, Pulp Fiction, and we're there. We're there saying, oh, I want to make movies because of things that came out. I want to Die Hard and Terminator 2 and all this sort of stuff. So, and then right when we're in college, it's like, oh no, directors. Here's some new ones. So I know you pay attention to all that stuff because that's all we talked about. But to see a real maestro like this, how do you compare and contrast other people you've worked with?
To me, it was, all of the innate talent and the energy and love that he puts into the story and the set and his vision and all that. I think what it is he surrounds himself. His ego is so minuscule for a giant man. His ego is so minuscule to surround himself with collaborators who bring more to the table. There is no ego with Guillermo. He knows exactly what he wants, but as I said before, he is willing to throw it all aside for when some other artist brings their vision to it, and it uplifts the story, and that is true of all of the the costume designers and the production designers and the cinematographer and all of his crew have worked with him multiple times before. Yeah. Many of the actors come crawling back to work with him again. And I think because he builds a set where you are given the authority and the respect to that you're there to contribute, you're there to elevate, you're there to bring what you provide and continue painting this masterpiece that he's painting, instead of that he's got the whole thing done and he's just going to take you and throw you up on the wall exactly where he wants you. And so I think that is the difference I noticed about him from anybody else I've worked with.
And what's fun about him too is in the interview, again, I got to see him, for anybody joining late, I got to see him at the New Beverly after the black and white screening last night. And what you forget about Del Toro, because you watch his movies and you go, there's this sort of like Tim Burton aesthetic, which is like, oh, I like these very extreme things and very extreme noir and all that sort of craftsmanship, cineast type stuff. But what you forget about him is he comes in this sort of like post-Tarantino, like those people that like really, really, really love movies and can reference. He must have referenced 35 movies so fast last night. I mean, I recorded it. I was going to bring clips here, but it's not really good audio. But I got to go back and hear because he just rattles. He goes, well, like, this filmmaker did this and this filmmaker did this. It's very much this sort of, and you're just like, he is that classic sort of like Quentin Tarantino guy where you can just listen, just soak it in and go, okay, now I got to look all these movies up. I don't know if he constantly has that reference value on set but I know you would appreciate that sort of thing of like, ooh, I got to go look that up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. His I mean, he lives for it. He's doing exactly what he should be doing. When we were the night before the premiere, some of us got together, and I was talking with Kim, who is Guillermo's partner and his spouse and writing partner, and Peter Jackson's Beatles documentary had just come out, and so she said, "Yeah, yesterday we got up at 5 a.m. and we watched all 8 hours straight through." Oh, and that was like the day before, the day after it had come out. And I thought, I mean, he got up, like they made a date to do 8 hours. I still haven't gotten through it. I love it. Still haven't. I'm fascinated by every minute of it. Every minute. And Kim was like, we would rewind because we were like, wait, what's Yoko doing over in the corner? And they would like study things that were, beyond what Paul was saying. And I just thought like, that's a different level. That's somebody that like cannot that's breathing to him is, studying and enjoying film and filmmaking and artists. I think they loved the Beatles thing so much is because that was watching artists create. And that was, that's why he loved it so much. But just the last, the other thing I'll say about him is he's just such a lovely human.
Yeah.
He's so warm and generous and funny.
Yeah.
And
that dude holds court. I mean,
Yeah.
Comic-Con, he was there for was Don't Be Afraid of the Dark that he produced. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah.
And he got up on stage and he just was there anybody else on stage? Who knew? And of course there was a little sign that said "Don't swear," and of course the F-bombs just flying out of him. Gates this whole he's telling story. Everybody's loving him, and I'm like, is that every day on the set? He comes, okay, let me tell you something happened, and he just, like in a half hour of his stories, and then you get the shooting, or is that guy?
Yeah, you get him and Perlman together because talk about a Raconteur. I mean, like the two of them,
right?
I'm just like, I can be here for months. This is fine. This is great. It's listening to the two of them, and then like David would come in and. Very in David's way of just underplaying and start talking about 8 Men Out or something. And you're like, wow, talk about like the catalog of work that was just sitting next to me on sets with Tony on one side and Rooney on the other, or Willem going out to lunch with Will. Like it was ridiculous. Every shot I had was with, these icons of film, it was a treat. For sure.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Nightmare Alley, Vision in Darkness and Light is the full title of the black and white version. So once again, it plays through the 20th here in LA at the Grove at the AMC at the Grove at the Landmark, and starts up this weekend at the Los Feliz Theater and the American Cinematheque. So that's at the Egyptian, most likely, or it could be at the Arrow, I suppose. Check out American Cinematheque's website. It's gonna be one of those two theaters. And he's been out doing the Q&A, so you might catch him. I know he's at Landmark, or he was at Landmark.
He's going to be on Fridays at the Egyptian or whichever one it is. Yeah, he's going to be there this Friday.
Cool.
And he's worth listening to. Even if you skip the film, go see him.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah. And now's the time when one of these maestros puts out a movie, especially ones that can talk like he can, I got to start scrubbing the podcast because you'll come across like, a guy like him or when Tarantino puts a movie out and you're like, a 3.5 hour long podcast? And that's just because these guys can go and go and go. So I'm sure he's got some good stuff I have to look up. I could listen to him talk all day.
And another question I want to ask Mark, when you were previously on the movie Showcast, our old show, that you said we ask every guest their favorite movie of all time, to which you said this is an impossible question, and you gave us a hard time.
How dare you ask that? Yeah.
Right, and then you came up with Boyhood, as you probably it had just come out, but already you said this it checked every box that a film is supposed to check in terms of emotion and impressive and all this stuff. Has that changed? Is your favorite movie of all time still Boyhood, or you were also on board, I believe, with what's your favorite movie of all time right now, which then would probably change.
I can change mine tomorrow if I want, and I will still add the of all time to it. Yeah,
I can't change from this, but I get where you're coming from. Always Raiders for me, but
I'm sure that's not like if I sat down and you can only watch one movie for the rest of your life, I doubt it would be Boyhood. So I'll caveat that. But I think what I said at the time, and it actually holds true, is that I get excited to watch a film that it's clear that this medium of art is the only way you could tell this story.
Right.
And Boyhood, because of the scope of it, because it literally, he followed somebody for 12 years and documented
incredible
in a narrative way. You can't do that on stage. You can't do that. Right. You can, I guess you could do it in book form, but
not really,
like not in 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes. So I think it's that I enjoy so much when I see, even something like as great as West Side Story or whatever, you can make a musical on stage of that. And, the Saving Private Ryan, I love Saving Private Ryan, but All Quiet on the Western Front's a pretty good book. It's sort of,
right.
You can match those qualities, or Guernica, like that's a painting that it looks, that kind of encapsulates what war is like. And you just stare at it and you're like, okay, that's war. Boyhood to me still, that feels like that's the only way you can tell that story is through film. So I like magical being taken away to go like, all right, that's the only way I can take in that story is through this medium.
And what a radical filmic experiment too, that will just never be duplicated. Like, just what an idea for that young filmmaker to go, I got an idea and I'm gonna start shooting it today.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it turns out in 12 years. That's just like, wow. Incredible.
Now, I revisited your old appearance on our show, and you were sitting to my left because that's where Adam normally sits. So I forgot Adam wasn't there.
I was not there for the last show
in studio. Right. So he missed the Double Dragon story.
I did miss the Double Dragon. No.
I think we need to hear it again.
Now, let me back up here also and say, as a live-action superhero fan at the time and to today, that one of our own had Miami University's mass communications majors had gone, and that they were shooting a superhero movie for all intents and purposes in Cleveland, Ohio, and that you were involved in that. That was like big time. This was like maybe a year after graduation or something, I think, or maybe 2, maybe less.
No, I think it was maybe a month after graduation.
Yeah, like
right after. Yeah.
So that was a really big deal. I mean, say what you will about Double Dragon, the fact that you were involved, I think Matt Lenhart as well might have been involved.
Sorry, you don't want me to actually say what I think of. Okay. Go
oh, okay, yeah. You say what you will.
Say what you want. I won't.
Don't say what you will.
Yeah, let the clips do it for me.
Robert Patrick in this movie, the look of Robert Patrick, there is just no more 1995 look in any character.
Double Dragon.
Yeah. Well, here, let's give another taste here, because this clip, all movies should open like this.
After their victory, princes hid the medallions to prevent them from ever being used for evil.
I mean, boom, and you're off and running in that movie. But Robert Patrick, man, I mean, shortly after Terminator 2, that was another thing. That was another thing. You were in a movie with Alyssa Milano, love of my life, and Robert Patrick, who, like, the Terminator 2, the wash of the influence of that was all throughout college for me. I edited almost everything to the score to Terminator 2 and tried to be a mini James Cameron there at Miami University.
You mean Scott Wolf didn't do it for you? That wasn't enough for you?
No. The influence is still felt.
Sure.
So real quick, how'd you get involved? What'd you do?
Oh, God. So, I mean, although we are speaking the praises of Miami University of Ohio, Hollywood did seem about not 2,500 miles away, but about 75,000 miles away from the cornfields of Southern Ohio. Yeah. And so I had no clue how to get from there to here. And our buddy Matt Lenhart, who was far more had a much better head screwed on his shoulders than I did, had already gone up there to Cleveland and had worked himself to get a PA job on the set, and called me one day and said, "Hey, do you want to? They're looking for another PA, an office PA. Do you want to do it?" And so I was like, "Sure, that'd be great." And he had already busted his tail, doing the PA thing where he's up at 6 a.m. and goes to bed at midnight, working $8 an hour or whatever, and getting yelled at. And he had been grinding away for all this time, weeks and weeks and weeks. And I show up, and being an office PA, it was like, kind of had, you come in and do a job and then you'd leave. But I was nowhere near set, but I was set adjacent. It was kind of exciting. My first actual task was to deliver a bouquet of flowers that was bigger than me. I remember I could barely carry this thing, and I had to give it to Alyssa Milano and go to her room and give it to her, because she apparently something with her flight had gotten messed up and she was not thrilled about it. And so I delivered this giant bouquet of flowers, and that was my first experience with Hollywood. And then maybe 2 days in, I thought, well, this isn't very fun. I'm not getting anywhere near set, and this is a lot of work. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was about to just walk away and quit when someone pulled me aside and said, "Hey, do you want to be in the movie? And meanwhile, Matt is over here slaving away, like just his soul has been taken from
also
him.
an actor,
Also
an actor,
yeah.
and behind the scenes,
right? And I'm like, sure, and actually, I am, and they're like, yeah, whatever. And they needed what it was Double Dragon was set in post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, and earthquakes would happen like every 5 minutes or something. So any buildings that were still standing in this 2030 LA. Needed a hydraulic support system to when the earthquake happened that would hold it up. And so they had built this hydraulics that apparently didn't look very impressive on set. So they needed somebody small to work the hydraulics to make it look bigger than it actually was. So they picked me out because I'm 3'10" on a good day and had me do this. And for like 3 days, I sat there behind Scott Wolf and Mark Descanso, is that his name? He was actually quite a good martial arts guy.
Oh,
and
Dacascos?
Dacascos, thank you.
Dacascos, yeah.
Yes, thank you. My apologies.
I wonder why I know that.
I'm sure
you got that. Couldn't get A Star Is Born.
Couldn't get a classic, right? Yeah, classic. Mark Dacascos. Oh, Mark Dacascos. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, if he's listening, I'm sure Mark's listening, and he's going to be very upset that I don't remember his last name. But I sat there for 3 days, and on the third day, they still hadn't I was going to have a close up, and this was my ticket to Hollywood, right? And that I was in this fine production, and on the third day, they come to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't gotten a contract yet. I don't know what. I'm still just a PA. Like, what is happening? I gotta. Enough of me knew that there was something business funky was going on with me being in this film all of a sudden as an actor, but not being treated like an actor, and. So the assistant director comes up to me. He's like, hey, buddy, we're not going to get you your shot. Can you come back tomorrow? And I had thought beforehand, they're going to come to me and ask that. And I know I'm already enough in the film that they need me. So I'm going to say, no, I'm working my other job. And I was very proud of myself of that, coming up with that. And he comes up to me and says, hey, buddy, we're not going to get to your shot today. Can you come back tomorrow? I said, I'm actually working my other job. And he said, oh, where do you work? I hadn't thought of that yet. So I had a couple weeks before, I had gone to downtown Cleveland. They had just opened a brand new Tower City, which was like a big mall downtown. And they had a Gap Kids there. And that was right when Gap Kids had come out. And I was so excited because every time I had gone to buy clothes in my life, it was Garanimals and, like puffy, like cows saying moo on my shirt. And to try to find like adult looking clothes is so hard for me. So Gap Kids was like, it was the holy grail. It was a revelation when that came out. So I was very excited. So I said, oh, I work at Gap Kids downtown at Tower City. He said, that's amazing. Next week we're shooting there. Hey, I'm going to come into the store. And if you can give me a discount, I got 2 daughters back home in LA. I'd love to buy them some clothes. Are you going to be there? Absolutely. I think I'm working that week. Yeah, that's sure. I'll see you then. And I'll be back tomorrow. Okay. And so then I had to go down after shooting and not getting any sort of leverage. I went down to Tower City Gap Kids and applied for a job and got a job so I could be there the next weekend. So when he came in, I could give him a discount on clothes and not blow the whole ruse.
Wow.
So I was a Gap Kids employee also.
Major move. Is a major move. And also, here is a major move. This is you in the movie Double Dragon. Uh-oh. We have earthquake.
It's just an aftershock, not a quake.
So there we go. Yes. Oh, but much like in Nightmare Alley, that's not the only appearance you make. Moments later. Sponsored by 3M.
I think I just did that for about 9 hours straight. I think I just stopped. Just
keep going.
That.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Everybody went to lunch. Yeah.
We want the footage. We'll just put it in wherever we feel like putting it.
Yeah.
In fact, I might do that in the future. movies we talk about. Just put the shot of you. You know, you got Olivia Colman sharing a lovely scene with Dakota Johnson. Then
just pumping. Here we go.
Pretty much any sex scene, cut to that.
I might do that.
But I say, you know, we're obviously making fun of Double Dragon here in a little bit, but at the time, legitimately, it was just like, oh my God, that's just so cool that you were in, that they're making basically a superhero movie, a video game movie in Cleveland, and that you and Matt were involved in it. That was so cool. And then right after we had talked to you about coming onto the show, I cruised through Pluto TV every night, and this is now on Pluto, and I was like, oh, what a coincidence. So then I pulled the clip.
Can't wait for that residual check.
There you go. Yep, Pluto TV, man. It's coming in.
All right. Well, Mark, stick around here. Let's do the latter third of the show here, talking about.
Let me one last thing while you get your thoughts together. I do want to say one last thing about Miami University with Mark Povinelli. That it was that time where you know, El Mariachi had come out, then Clerks came out, and then Pulp Fiction, and we're all there trying to make movies, and I had this idea. I was like, I want to make the first feature film at Miami University. But I did not make the first feature film at Miami. You did. You guys, at least it was pretty close to a feature, was Rinse Cycle. And that is, I think, one way I really got to know you was that you guys had made a feature film, basically a feature film. It was like an hour plus, I believe. And I was just thought that was so cool. I was like, to me, you were a legend at that point. I was like, holy crap. They figured it out. They figured out how to make a feature at Miami, and I never did make a feature there, but you guys did. So anyway,
I think you might have been relieved of a lot of pain and anguish, because it may not sound, not to toot our horn, it was me and Allie McLean, who's a real successful playwright now in LA.
Okay.
But we, you know, you think of making a movie now, and it's like you grab your phone and you go outside and you cut it together on your phone. That was back in the day of like these giant, I don't even know the name of them anymore, but these like 20-pound cameras that played on videotape, and you'd have to go into the studio and splice them with a razor blade and edit in that form. And it was so much work. I can't even tell you how much work that was. And this was our senior year, and this is how we decided to spend it. But we got all our friends to do it, and it was finished. That.
But you were always a local legend to me, because you guys are like, wow, they cracked the code, they made a feature. But yeah, it was 3/4 inch tape. It was
3/4 inch, right?
Tape's about that big, about that thick, and you would not only did the camera weigh 25 pounds to bring the VCR onto set to record to, was, you know, it was the size of an ice cooler, and that you would bring and pop a tape in and get, you know, 30 minutes out of that, and then pop another gigantic tape in. So yeah, that was why I was like, God bless you guys, because that's a true pain in the ass making a feature on 3/4 inch tape. But
our final shot, or one of the final shots, was and actually Eric Lang was our lead.
That's the name.
Who's now, you know, you can IMDb him, and he's done a million things. He was on Lost for a while, and he's done a ton of stuff, and we discovered him. And I tell him about that all the time. But we had a big Oldsmobile, and we had about 12 actors stuffed inside the Oldsmobile. That was sort of the gag of it was anyway. And to shoot it, I was laying on top of the hood of the Oldsmobile, because I was the only one who could fit on it, holding the camera like that, prone, holding the camera as they drove about 7 miles an hour down the road, and this back Ohio country road. And I'm just laying there, like, not harnessed to anything. That's what you do when you're 22 and are stupid, and just
anything to make
camera.
A movie. You know?
Yeah, that's how you make a movie.
I love it. Let that anything to make a movie thing. It's just, that's wonderful. Yeah.
That's why Adam likes all movies, because if you finished it, God bless you.
Right.
It's so hard.
You got to credits. My God, you know, it's impossible. I mean, making movies is impossible. It really is. Like that they get made is incredible, and that's why I love it. Yeah.
I was wrong before we get to movie talk real quick. I did want to mention one more thing. Of course, you are the president of Little People of America. This is an organization that promotes awareness, advocacy, and medical assistance for individuals with dwarfism. Is that something that you get to, or was there like a vote, or did you just request it? I mean, how does that all work within the members of the group?
I think you have a moment of where you lose your senses and go, I think this is a good idea. I think I should be president of this organization. And then you come to your senses, but by that point you're already there. Yeah. No, I'd been in the organization my whole life since I was like 2. And I got to an age where I thought, all I've done is take from this really an amazing organization. I could talk about it for hours, but really gave me my self-confidence, gave me an understanding of who I am, gave me a support system, lifelong friends. And I was like, it's probably time to give back now. And so I got on the board, and then the president at the time had served out his term. And so I kind of insanely said, yeah, I'll step up. And there was an election, and I won the election. And now I've been doing it for about 4.5 years and have a 1.5 years left on my second term. And that's it. That's all we make. But yeah, it's a really gratifying position, and really a lot of work, and a really great organization that I couldn't be more proud of.
Do you have activism within Hollywood?
Not so much here and there. We are mostly a social support organization with kind of an advocacy arm. There's others that do it, I think, better than we do, because we're not necessarily Hollywood media focused. And so there's people like Danny Woodburn, and outside of the organization, I mean, he's part of the organization, but outside that do it with like the Ruderman Foundation, and there's a couple other organizations that kind of really are watchdogs of media. But when we feel the need to speak up, we do. Wolf of Wall Street was an example where, they had the scene where DiCaprio and Jonah Hill, I think, like, they do dwarf tossing. They throw these guys up against dressed in Velcro up against a Velcro wall. And while that certainly did happen, I think probably in these kind of circumstances, the way it was celebrated and not commented on within the film was troubling to our membership. And so we, got involved in other things like, is it the Rascal Flatts, I think, have done. No, that's wrong. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not going to say that because now I can't remember who it was, but
a musical group.
Yeah, there's definitely people that still say some pretty ignorant things, and we'll try to speak up. Saturday Night Live being one of them, not in the too distant past with Stefan, and so yeah, we try to make the media aware that of their ignorance at times, which certainly exists.
I was looking on the website, and it said there was a statement on Voxzogo.
Wow. Yeah.
What is that? I was reading about it. I'm like, what is this?
What's his superpower?
Right. It does. I think that's going to be on Monday Night Football also. A preview.
Voxzogo.
Oh, where's the countdown now? We're at probably about an hour and 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours, because it's an hour and change to the game, and then probably half times when you get the trailer. So that's the Moon Knight update on the countdown to the trailer.
That's right.
This Monday, don't miss how Marvel Studios moon the NFL Super Wildcard.
That's the preview for the preview for the preview.
Yeah.
But quickly, Voxzogo is a biotechnical therapy, a pharmaceutical therapy that they've developed, and the FDA just approved, that speeds up the growth velocity in a certain type of dwarfism, achondroplasia, which is the most common type. Peter Dinklage has achondroplasia, and most people with dwarfism do have that type. And it's very controversial in our community because we hoped that it was going to address a lot of other like ancillary medical issues that go along with dwarfism. Dwarfism isn't just being short. There's oftentimes medical complications, spinal stenosis, right, or joint issues, and sleep apnea and respiratory issues. And we thought it would address those, and the way they got it approved was purely by growth velocity. So basically, it's a therapy that makes you taller. And we've spent Billy Barty founded this organization 64 years ago, and and we've spent 64 years building like what we call dwarf pride and like this self-worth and self-confidence that even if we're born differently, that's fine, and we add to the fabric of diversity in society, and our limitations aren't defined by our height, they're defined by society's attitudes towards us. And so then a therapy comes along that's like, well, yeah, but here, make you taller. And
total X-Men shit, if you ask me.
Totally,
like, you know, they're like, hey, this shot can cure them. Fuck off.
Right. And so that's kind of been and you know, parents want what's the troubling thing is you have to give it to kids during their growing years, so they don't have agency and ownership of that decision. It's parents doing what's best for their kids, and they all have a good heart, but you know, it's really only when you've gone through something and lived that life that you can kind of define its value. And so I feel like I can confidently talk about what it's like to be a little person. I'm less confident when an average height person tells me what it's like to be a little person and whether I should be one or not.
Yeah. That's and you know, you played Billy Barty in My Dinner with Hervé.
That's right.
Now, and I'm assuming coming up, obviously you're a media fan from way back, you know, long before you entered the field or went to college for it and stuff like that. Did you gravitate to, you know, seeing people, you know, little people in movies and stuff, and like, you know, connect with that? And was it cool to play Billy Barty, you know, one of the more famous, you know, I mean, I even knew his name, you know, when I was a kid and stuff, because he was just in all kinds of stuff that I watched, you know, and he would show up. Did you know about that actor, and was it like cool to play that as an adult?
I mean, anytime I could see myself on film, I'd get so jazzed, and then many times I'd be let down because it would turn out to be Tattoo, or it would turn out to be the Oompa Loompas, or something where you're like, I don't even know if you're human, let alone, you know, having a full scope of a character.
Yeah,
but,
usually for a joke, right? I mean,
right, for sure. But I do remember seeing Billy on Foul Play, Chevy Chase, Goldie Hawn.
Right.
And he plays a Bible salesman, and he innocently knocks on Goldie Hawn's door, and in the beginning of the film, it's like a murder mystery, and there's a line, beware of the dwarf, I believe.
Right.
And you're worried about an alias of one of the bad guys is the dwarf. And so when Billy shows up, she thinks he's the dwarf, and so ends up kicking his ass. It's a really funny, beautiful scene. So seeing that and seeing Time Bandits, I mean, David Rappaport and those guys, like,
oh my God,
Adventure, I was crazy for that. And
that movie was awesome.
So you would hang on to these little nuggets of, no pun intended, of seeing yourself on screen. But I mean, I get so excited to see like the stuff Peter gets to do, Dinklage, things like The Station Agent, or you know, Cyrano that's about to come out, where you've got these fully enriched characters that have dwarfism, and it's not ignored. It's part of the dynamic of that character, but they're obviously well-rounded and human. I mean, when I started my career, it was so interesting. The fantastical characters that I played, Double Dragon aside, were oftentimes written with more depth than the human characters I would play, because there's like the fantastical characters were like, okay, we get it. You're an elf, or you're a leprechaun, or whatever it may be. We want to humanize you, so we'll give you a full range of emotions so that the audience can relate to this fantastical characters. Well, if I'm playing a human, I'm likely there for a sight gag. And they're not interested in my humanity. They're interested in, like, you know, the sight gag. And so, you know, there's always a reluctance to play the Time Bandit characters, or these special effects characters. Warwick's made a great career out of it. But oftentimes those characters are some of the more interesting characters you can play when you're, you know, so marginalized as the dwarfism community and the disability community larger is. That's changing, though. It's changing.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel like it's come a long way? Probably got a long way to go, I'm assuming, but
long way to go. I mean, what's nice to be seeing is that the authenticity of that the people with the actual condition are actually playing the part. There's no more tiptoes going on out there, where Gary Oldman is playing a dwarf on his knees, or, you know,
John Leguizamo,
or
Or the Hobbits. What about the Hobbit cast?
And there's the Hobbit cast, right? Exactly. So, in all aspects, there's 61 Oscars that have gone to parts that were played by that were written as disability characters, and only 2 were actually won by characters with a disability.
Wow.
May I?
All the I'm going to win my Oscar by putting on this disability and playing that.
Tiptoes
May I
is the strangest
use
thing.
that to transition into movies we saw this week? Well, there's still like another 15 minutes left to the show. There's no time limit, but 90 minutes is usually a solid show. Because I brought this up in the show, talked about it with Adam. I'm sitting here waiting for the best film of the year to show itself. It's late in the award season. Usually I've seen something. It's like, okay, you got to beat Captain Phillips, or you got to beat Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or you got to, I know I love La La Land, or I love One Night in Miami last year just crushed me. And I'm like, this movie's, you got to beat this movie. There's been nothing like that. I'm like, this could be best picture. This maybe, I was like, just
what's your thoughts on that, Paul? Because nothing seems to be, and I've only seen a couple of the contenders so far. I'm way behind as usual.
Well, this changed last night. Now the one to beat for me is Coda.
Oh, okay.
And you talk about
good segue.
Actors of who have a disability playing characters with a disability. You have it stands for Children of Deaf Adults, but a coda also means a lot more to the film, as music plays a major part in the story as well. And of course, what a coda means to music relates to the story. Like, this movie is very, very rich, and there's no frills, direction, acting, story, script, just full on win. That movie is beautiful.
Okay.
And full of great performances. The SAG Awards wisely nominated the ensemble. And whoever plays the father in the family, whose name is escaping me, by the time we're done with award season, we'll all know it. Trust me. He's great. And the young girl, though, should have been nominated, I think, who the main story is about. She's the one person who can hear in her family and is struggling with, like, how do I get through college as the girl with the family, who's weird, that everybody in the town thinks is weird. And how do I get on with maybe an interest in music, because music's just not in my house, with the deaf family. So all these things play out just with exceptional performances. No scene that, even if you can see it getting to the next scene, gets there in a way you saw coming. And it's not like it's full of crazy surprises, but just they do unique things to tell this story continuously. And I was super impressed. To me, that there's no finer film out there.
Any director?
Sorry to disappoint you, Roach Smythe. But
so you're saying
VHS?
Okay.
Saying VHS for Coda. So look for it. It's an Apple original film, so it's on Apple TV Plus or whatever it's called. I think it's been there for a while, but as you can see from the laurels at the top, it came out at Sundance last year and made a fuss there, but got its actual release, later this year. And I saw it in the theater at an award screening, which, of course, I always like to see everything in the theater if I can.
I thought that was your viewing room in your basement.
Oh, I wish.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that'd be great. Now, these guys didn't play around. You had to be masked. You had to have your vaccination card, but they gave you a PCR test right there, too. So I was like,
wow.
Everyone around me is clearly not have COVID, so that was comforting. And
makes movies so much more comfortable, doesn't it?
Thoroughly enjoyed that film. And while you're talking about other stuff, I'm going to look up the names of the actors, because it's unfair for me to bring them up and not mention them, because they were phenomenal. So Marlee Matlin's in it, former Academy Award winner, plays the
one of the two.
Right?
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
So you have Amelia Jones. She is your lead actress, plays Ruby, the daughter. She's fantastic. Troy Kotzer and Marlee Matlin play the parents, and Daniel Durant plays Ruby's brother. And Sean Heater, probably Heater, is the a female, Sian. It looks Irish, I guess, right, or something.
Sean.
Yeah, she introduced herself in a little video before the film, so she said Sean. Then I saw how it was spelled later. I'm like, oh, that's a cool way to put that, a Celtic or who knows what it is. But Sean Heater adapted it, I think, from a foreign film and directed. I'm in love with that movie. that was it for my mask. I had to put that one in the laundry. It was just crying all over. It was fantastic movie, just fantastic. And it's not any, arrival of some new filmmaker's vision. She just kind of got out of the way, and the smart thing to do. The actors just took over, and were all excellent. Great film.
That is an amazing thing. We just never even thought about it. If someone's playing a deaf person, someone's playing, or obviously Tiptoes is ridiculous and everybody recognized. I don't even know how that movie even happens. And then nobody sees it. And then suddenly people are like, have you heard of this movie? Which is just crazy. But yeah, it's a whole new era. Mark, what did you think? Another movie because you mentioned Foul Play, and my parents were huge Chevy Chase fans, huge Saturday Night Live fans. So that movie got watched a lot, and I just love that because, especially as a kid, the mystery of that, the albino, which is probably not played by a real albino, I'm sure, but the sort of like. The mystery that unfolds in that. But the other one I loved with Chevy Chase was Under the Rainbow. Did you see that as a kid? And was that offensive? Because some of those movies, I'm like, boy, if I would go back and watch that now, I don't know if that's going to be, that might be all in really bad taste. Time Bandits is not. That was another one I loved as well, because they don't really make any reference, I don't think, to their height. They're just adventurers, right? I mean, I don't know if that's even an issue really in that movie. It's just that he cast all of them. But what did you ever see Under the Rainbow, another Chevy Chase, Carrie Fisher movie?
I don't know if I saw it in its entirety. I think at the time I was young enough that it may have been R-rated, and I don't know that my parents were interested in seeing it, so I didn't have a way to access it. And then by the time I got old enough to be able to see it, I was like, I don't think I want to see it.
It's a dumb movie, yeah.
But it's funny because I have friends that I believe Tony Cox might be in that, and Billy's in it, and Phil Fondacaro I think is in it. And anyway, that's what was available at the time, and I'm pretty sure I think that's offensive.
It's got to be, right? There's no way when I put that in, it's not offensive.
It's got to be, and it's even its premise is somewhat offensive because it's basically a retelling, I think, of like at least loosely based on Wizard of Oz, and that they're filming a movie that's Wizard of Oz-esque, and there's a ton of little people in the story about Wizard of Oz is that they were all a bunch of groping, drunken, crazed, little pets that they all had to lock up at night, or they were gonna pour water on them, and they were all gonna go crazy. And Judy Garland
feed them after midnight.
Judy Garland would even go on talk shows and play that up as a big story.
Oh, wow.
And it was really cruel because these people were not that. They weren't a collective group of like crazed, animals. And,
they were people.
Lascivious. Yeah, and they came from all. I'm sure a couple of them went out and partied, but come on, so did the crew, and so haven't done every set. And it was they really mistreated the actors that played the Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz, and Judy was a big part of that. And then they made a movie about it in 1980 that sort of played on that. So the origin story isn't great either.
No, that's
But that's the 80s, man. That's the 80s.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Towel.
There we go. Exactly.
All right, yeah. So I saw a whole bunch of stuff. I mean,
what'd you see this week, Paul? Because
I did go to Teen Witch at the New Beverly, and that movie is. I mean,
how is that with the crowd?
Top that sequence. Look it up online. You will want to see the whole movie, and it's weird. It weirdly has one like the other sequence I was showing you earlier. I Like Boys is a full-on musical sequence. That's it. For like musical sequences that sort of break the narrative and bust into song, Top That kind of happens within the world. Movie. He's just rapping on the street, in the story. So it's kind of an odd, it's not a good movie. Surprise, surprise. And but it does have great appearance by Zelda Rubinstein when you need a crazy old gypsy witch.
Sure,
she's the one who tells our young teen witch that she's in this great lineage of witches and her powers will come to her on her 16th birthday or whatever.
Speaking of iconic little people,
Zelda.
She is that. Yeah, so Yeah, so I don't recommend going and see it. But if you see a bunch of people who like it, watch it with them because it's
yeah. Yeah, but so you were with a whole crowd. I mean, how many people fit in the New Beverly? 150?
Yeah, but it must have been like 80 or so. There was certainly more at that than, as I often say, at Belfast. So,
but I mean, yeah,
and Belfast is good too. But still, people are going to Tea and Witch.
But it must have been raucous seeing it. The laughter with seeing this movie with that crowd.
Yeah, it's so cheese bag. It's a big old cheese bag movie, and people were having fun. And then it ends, and you're like, did they wrap up like one of the 5 storylines? And that's enough. Roll credits.
Shut up, Ralph.
Yeah, exactly. But so yeah, I saw that. Anyone else around the table? We got a couple more minutes left.
Yeah, what'd you see this week, Mark? I'm trying to think of what I saw.
It was not a big movie week. Tick, Tick, Boom.
Oh, okay.
Is that legitimately in the awards consideration? Should it be?
You know, it was one of those films that I thoroughly enjoyed while I was watching, but I don't know about it being a great piece of filmmaking, and I didn't think about it a whole lot afterwards. It wraps up, kind of exists on its own, doesn't make you think a ton afterwards. Andrew Garfield is really quite a revelation, I got to say. I think I'm not, I don't pine for Andrew Garfield films, yet he does great work in that, and he's infectious. You can tell how much he loves doing what he's doing in that, and his performance is really wonderful. So I wouldn't turn my nose up at him getting a nomination. It's a good film, but I don't know that it's a weird year. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I agree with you, Paul. Like, nothing I've seen. I haven't seen Coda yet. Nothing I've seen has been like, that's the one. That's it. That's clearly.
Yeah, Don't Look Up was kind of a front runner, but I had so many problems with its inconsistent tone that even when it hit overall as a piece, I'm like, not the best, really good. I loved it, but
that's not going to get
Coda
nominated.
No, it won't. But I'm just, for me, I'm thinking, what's the one? And but again, Coda hit that. Yeah. And it's a shame that has to be put upon these movies. They dump so many of them at the end of the year. It's like, all these are best pictures, right? And you're like, can we just enjoy them without having it have to be the best movie of the year? But so be it.
And I really wanted Power of the Dog, from what I had heard of it, to be that movie, and it wasn't for me. It just wasn't.
Man, that looks boring to me. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm in the majority, because people are writing essays about it, and I just, like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's plenty of spoiler comments I can make, but I think I'm in your camp on that one, and I'll avoid it. Oh, but what I would like to say, in enjoying Nightmare Alley as much as I did, man, that last shot just haunts me, stays in my head. Yeah, nice. That 20th Century Fox movies are getting a bad hand dealt to them. The Kingsman is great.
Oh, I gotta see this.
West Side Story is fantastic.
I gotta see this.
Nightmare Alley is excellent.
I've seen it.
And all three of them have not reached Spider-Man heights. These movies should all be getting Spider-Man money, because they're all good. I mean, I know it's a tough time to get people out and all that, but they should. So hopefully we're helping. Get out there and see these movies.
I mean, it's the safest place to gather, because the theaters are not packed. You can easily sit 6 feet away from people. Everybody wears their masks. If you're here in LA, if you're in Ohio, then nobody's seen a mask in weeks, months, years. I couldn't believe when I landed in Columbus, and I was like, nobody's wearing, anybody at all is wearing a mask. But here, you can go to a movie theater and they'll even check
eating too. Yeah, I don't eat at the movies. I just because I don't want to take the mask off. So just sit, enjoy the film, and then off you go. But they benefit from being larger than life, especially those three I mentioned. I mean, West Side Story is huge. Kingsman, the action's insane. Nightmare Alley is just dripping with noir. I mean, it's all good. You want to? All right, we'll get to Peacemaker. But
yeah, we can cover that next week as well. Because I'm only one episode into Peacemaker. I haven't seen My Beloved Vigilante yet.
Okay, keep watching.
But just know that I am in an era where Vigilante, of all comic book characters, which I have every issue of, is now in a TV show. So
we're in that special time of our lives when
Yes.
Marvel is killing it, and DC's also doing okay. The Ford Report, unfortunately,
I see your point.
we don't have a new Ford Fiesta episode to brag about yet, but go out there and watch the Frisco Kid one. But I did, as ever, unearth something from my garage. Have you seen this? We have a podcast called The Ford Fiesta as well, Mark, where we are watching every Harrison Ford movie from 1967 to the present and talking about them. And we're up to More American Graffiti, where he has a cameo.
Yeah.
And like Indiana Jones, I go into my garage and I unearth an artifact, and it's a Harrison Ford artifact. I was drinking out of this the whole show.
Oh, I know what
The
you're about to
old
show
Burger
us.
King glasses.
nice.
And of course, there's Harrison there in the corner.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, with a whole description of Lando on the back. And they're from Burger King. Yeah, Burger King. There it is. Burger King, and of course, Coke. There's a Coke logo.
Man,
So-
I had all those.
Yeah, and I got a whole bunch of them, but the only other one that has Harrison Ford on it. This is Empire Strikes Back. This is the only one I have left from Star Wars. So this glass is how long? What is Star Wars now?
77?
40 years old.
Wow.
How about that? Huh?
Man. Let's see
Chewie
Harrison
kind of
there.
looks like Han Solo. But then again, I mean, look at Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Nobody's doing the best there.
Yeah, Obi-Wan. Who does Obi-Wan look like? He looks like I don't know.
Oh my gosh. He looks like his face is melting, like he looked into the Ark.
Well, Chewie doesn't even have any eyeballs at this point. I don't know if he ever started like that, but he's like. But
well, that ain't the American way.
That's this week's artifact. Once again, Nightmare Alley, a Vision in Darkness and Light.
Yeah,
is out there now, and will be out there at the American Cinematheque this weekend. Thank you to Steve Scholes, who writes comedy jokes for us, and
thanks, Steve.
Follow us at the Movie Guys for daily jokes and links, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. What else we got? Anything else, or is that it?
What are we, an hour and a half away from the Moon Knight trailer? It's very exciting. Very exciting.
45 minutes. Yeah, probably about, maybe a little over that.
Yeah.
There's the countdown. We've done the Lord's work here today.
We have done the Lord's work here today, Paul.
That is all. Thanks for watching. Mark, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Always
good to see you.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully in person sometime soon. You know how to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Figure that out. Go see one of these movies we're supposed to go see. We'll find a time. You go to the app and you go, there's one with nobody. And then we just take the 3 center seats there. And
I like it. I'm there. You pick the movie.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. We'll find something here.
All right. Farewell.
All right.